I feel like a lot of students worry about their GPA a bit too much, even especially when it comes to grad school. I think they forget that GPA is just one number. I'm not saying that number that can be 2.1,
Yeah.
but I say if you're in the 3.3 to 3.8 range, GPA is not going to make as big of a dent in your application as your research experience or as your
Statement of
LORs
purpose.
or SOP are going to make. And I feel like a lot of students lose valuable time worrying about that one grade from A to A minus to A.
Yeah.
It's just too much about that.
Yeah.
So you've applied to grad schools. Well, इसलिए decide करा कहाँ जा रहा है?
No, I just decided because like I should have applied to more PhDs. I ended up applying to masters, like more because I ended up doubting myself. But like I don't know, I tend to do, I guess, right before like the application cycle. So I ended up submitting like my PhD style application everywhere to masters,
Right.
and like some of them worked out, most of them didn't. And like I'm happy they didn't work out because like most of them I applied to like really thinking about it right now. I probably would, knowing that I want to end in a PhD, I would have really like wasted my time there because masters is like a 2 years concentrated curriculum, maybe sometimes shorter than that too, sometimes like a year of like concentrated coursework where you have no time to like build relations with your advisors and like do research. So
So it's
like
like coursework on steroids,
yeah,
undergraduate
exactly.
course
Yeah,
on
yeah,
steroids.
yeah. Like you get to like specialize in a few places, and maybe you might even get to do a thesis if like the master's degree will allow it. But I think right now, knowing that I want to do a PhD for sure, at least at this point, I would benefit from like doing like just a year of concentrated research in like a structured pre-doctoral program, which is what I've decided to do. So yeah, but like I did go through the entire grad school process, and I feel like I did put together a decent application, but like that killed me. Uh, like I the entirety of November, I don't remember sleeping earlier than 8 a.m. I think in the morning, which was crazy. But like that's because I had a lot of other commitments that I could not like just shrug off. So yeah, but like I should have taken last semester easier too, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, I did apply to grad school.
So how did you decide between? So a lot of students have this dilemma, right? Industry करूँ या should I just study
Yeah.
study further?
Hmm.
And a lot of the, it's very hard to make that decision, especially when you don't have internship or research experience.
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, a course is not an accurate description of what research in that field
Exactly.
looks like.
Yeah.
Most of the times, the skills you have to learn
Hmm.
to do research in that field can be extremely mundane.
Yeah.
So yeah, so how did you decide between industry and research? I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
you don't have 100% certainty even now.
Yeah. But I think early on itself, my parents are they both work in corporate, and I've seen them like work extremely hard. And
What
like
exactly do they do if you don't mind?
my dad works in Ford, the car company, and like he's been in there for 25 years. So like Ford has treated him really well. Like it's one of the best companies that takes care of its employees. And like we like lived in a few different places. They take care of like education and like things like that. It's amazing. And like there's no complaints about like people like my parents losing jobs or anything, but it's more about like my mom works in Henkel. It's like German like they do everything, but like I think what they really do like adhesives. But then she works in like she works in data science right now,
Okay.
and like digitalizing their factories and plants and things like that. So both of them like have not had like problems in terms of losing jobs or anything. So I was never worried in that sense, but I always saw them like working extremely hard, like even on the weekends that like they would be working sometimes to like midnight and stuff. And then it's not like they never spent time with me or my sister or anything like that. Like they always did make time for it, but you could see that like my dad would only get like 5-6 hours of sleep every day, and like trying to balance like the family time with work time and stuff. And like I do not want that life. I am very lazy. I like sleeping for like 9 hours a day. I like having other things to do. I like spending time with my friends and things like that too. So I knew that like I was a little hesitant about corporate life to begin with from like a young age. And coming to Ashoka, I realized that okay, like throughout in my second year, I realized that the I wanted to combine my two interests in biology and CS was through AI and like natural intelligence versus human artificial intelligence, and see if like there you can influence artificial intelligence with concepts or like knowledge about natural biological intelligence. So that's the type of work I want to do. I want to like neuro inspired AI. So like I realized like that is the intersection I want to like work in, because that marries my two interests together, and I'm happy. And like that's still something that I've stuck by for a while. But I remember like, in my second year when I was looking at like, okay, now I need to start thinking about my future, because like I need to apply to internships and or research projects accordingly. I need to choose between academia or like tech jobs and stuff like that. And like, I remember like seeing like really places that I wanted to work in, like open AI, or like DeepMind. I mean, DeepMind was more focused on like
Mhm.
biologically inspired AI before Google took over. Like they all had like entry requirements of a PhD. So like, which really surprised me. I was like, okay, even though they may not be research jobs, they wanted you to have a significant amount of research experience and like the rigorous training that a PhD puts you through. So like I figured that it's more about like the symbolic nature of having done a PhD, which means that you have really stuck with like a project of your own for like 4 or 5 years, and like rigorous coursework, and like you've taught too and during a PhD, and you've managed to do all of that for 5 years. So like we want someone like that to be take over this job. That's what I figured what they were saying. But like, so I think I tuned myself that I need a PhD to even make it in like the fields that I want to make.
Mhm.
So I had kind of started like applying to research projects, talking to Professor Debayan and like Professor Banerjee about research opportunities and things like that. So that is when like I made the switch to, or like made the decision to pursue academia more. And then I figured after my PhD, if it turns out that I like academia, I want to like keep going with professorship and things like that, I will do it. Otherwise, I think even right now the plan is to kind of stay like after my PhD, because a CS PhD or like a PhD even in like STEM, like neuroscience, physics, computer science, all of that allows you to like jump to industry, because these are like very rigorous PhDs with
Right.
transferable skills and things like that. So I might spend some time in industry in like AI or whatever my interests are at that time, which hopefully stay the same, but you never know. And then like after some time, whether if I like it, I'll keep staying there. If not, I can always make the jump back to academia. So I think doing a PhD allows me to get the best out of both worlds, knowing that I'm a little unsure about whether I want to do an industry later on. But like, and also like knowing that I want to do a PhD, no, like I get this like sense of security, or like sense of like, um, like
Certainty.
certainty, exactly. Certainty that I will be like in school, or like I know what I'll be doing for the next like 6 years, because like 1 year of pre-doc now, and then maybe 1 or 2 years of pre-doc, and then maybe a PhD. So then like I know that after only I kind of have to like based on what I know then, I hope I know a lot more to make a more informed decision about industry versus academia. It's like I've kind of made the decision of academia, but like I guess I am doing the lazy thing of postponing the larger decision to like after my PhD. But I think the decision will be a lot easier then too. But like I doing a PhD, I guess I would have kind of had that academic experience as well, and then also this. But like grad school, yeah. So like decision between research and industry was made then, like when I or like grad school was industry was made then. But I guess like the only reason I would choose to like go for a job would be if I realize that like I'm okay with like even like an entry level like a development or like a software engineer role, which I'm not. I don't like building things for the sake of building things, or like to solve problems. I know that's a little different to what I said before, but I guess like something about like AI really draws me in right now, and that, like I said, requires like a PhD. And I feel like I would be happy doing a PhD because I've liked the research experience that I've had. Because like something that again like you should do, like I think people should do, is that once you kind of realize, okay, I'm leaning a bit towards like
Huh.
research with academia, take some research projects on and then see how you feel. And if those are positive experiences, that you can at least give it a shot, or like give more research projects a shot and then take it from there. But if you feel like you do like an industry internship and you like that better, do that. I think that's the only way of knowing. But before that, I would like kind of just scan the field, scan the type of jobs that you see yourself doing, and look at the requirements. If they want like grad school, then you kind of have to do grad school. The question is whether or not you'll do some work before or not, before or after. But for a PhD, you don't really need like work experience in a tech role before. But like sometimes you may need it. So I guess that would be my advice. But
Mhm.
Yeah, I think my decision was quite straightforward and like convenient for me because I got to just delay it. And as a procrastinator, I love that.
So you'll be starting your program when exactly?
A PhD program,
No, your
pre-doc
1 year
program. Yeah,
pre-doc program.
that starts like it's a very structured but like also a little free, like so it's up to me. And because like I may want to apply to like PhDs over December again, so it's better if I start early and get some progress then. So I was thinking July 1st I would start.
Oh, this year that
This year,
is. Usually second or third or first or second years,
Mm.
you see, they determine their master's program, they base it off of the prestige a college has. Whereas the best or the most important factor I'd say for, deciding where to do your PhD is the advisor.
Yeah.
Because that person is going to control your life for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a solid relationship with them, it's
You're
going to
right.
be hell.
It's a very astute observation for someone in their first year to make. Like I only started realizing all this in my final year.
Well, you talk to people, you learn things.
Good.
So
That's nice.
And so there was a physics person who came from Germany, not Germany, and he talked about how his PhD advisor was pretty good. They have lunch together, they have coffee together, they have informal chats, and of course, all of that relationship is important,
Right. Yeah.
to work under them.
Yeah.
And you hear stories about people who work under Nobel Prize winning PhD people, and because they're so damn busy, they give you like 20 minutes a semester or something like that, and that too because they have to do it.
Right.
I mean, you can even Professor Shoma, he's extremely busy, so he can't give that much time to his ESP students. I mean, Kushal was talking about that as well. So for someone trying to decide let's say this person has decided that they want to do a PhD or work in academia, what factors do you think they should consider? For instance, PhD advisor is one that I mentioned. I'd say prestige should not be your top three.
Yeah, you're right.
Or just the environment you want to work in.
Yeah.
The people you want to surround yourself by. So in your experience, what factors should this person consider?
I think you're right in the sense that prestige really doesn't matter. And like the way I see it, the further you go in your graduate or like in your higher education, the less prestige matters. Like in undergraduate, if it matters at all, it matters most in your undergraduate. And if you're doing a master's, it'll matter a bit less. But like it matters on the subject area that you're going to for that school, because like it's not just like this blanket label that you're putting anymore. Like if you're wanting like a computer science master's degree, you would want to go to like a place that's renowned for computer science,
right?
So not just like, any IVs. You would even like there are some like tier 1 CS colleges that are outside like maybe like Georgia Tech, Purdue, things like that are also great schools. So I would say that would be like the prestige equivalent in like stage and like the master's stage. But in PhD, I don't think the prestige plays a role at all unless it holds some personal value to you. I would not like put any like value in it otherwise. The advisor, I think, is the most important thing. Firstly, you need to know that like what you want to do will be something that the advisor, he or she, will be able to like advise you over, whether it's in their expertise or whether it's even in their curiosity like sphere right now at that given time. So talking to them even before you apply is something that you should do, like for like a successful PhD application, just so that like even just for like a chat where you get to know them and get a sense of what they like, and like whether if you love the work that they're doing, that means that if you may be able to work on other projects with them and like alongside your PhD, which is also good, because I think that we're just working on one project at all times might get a bit too much, because like if you're not making progress on one, I like to like take a break from that and work on something else and come back to it. So that helps. And also talking to lab members that you will be working with to get a sense of the lab culture, to also get a sense of how the advisor is like outside like a one-on-one conversation.
Right, so that's given you working in a lab.
Exactly. Yeah. Because most of the time when you're doing a PhD, you'll be joining a lab and like working under an advisor. Most advisors, especially like in the US, most professors in like at least in my experience from CS and neuroscience, they all have a lab of their own. They're PIs in their own lab.
Like a physical lab?
No, it's not physical in the sense that there is like a lab or anything. It's just like a group. So when you're when you go to CS dot I don't know Purdue dot edu whatever, you'll go to research. You'll see all the labs in computer science, and then each lab is called, I don't know, the decision making lab, the computational neuroscience lab, whatever. They're just like labs. Or they could be called groups as well. and like that's just like a way of structuring research at a university. And then like you'll be working on if you like want to do computational neuroscience, for example, you'll be working with a PI who's specialized in that.
PI is
The principal investigator, who is like the professor who's leading their lab.
okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I just thought of Sherlock Holmes when he's a principal investigator.
Fair enough. Like, yeah, it's a funny term to call a lead researcher, I guess. Yeah, but the first in command to investigate. Yeah. And you'll be working with other lab members, PhDs or postdocs,
Right.
who is working with that professor in the same area, or like in the same areas that are the areas of emphasis for that lab. So you kind of need to talk to the other people to get a sense of what the lab culture is like, if it's collaborative, and like how their experience with the advisor has been. Another thing you should know is like how you work. If you work well completely by yourself with very little like hands-on involvement but from like a superior like a professor, you kind of want like a hands-off advisor. If you need that extra guidance and extra direction, if you want to be held, because like someone like me, I'm really lazy. I need like constant deadlines, and this is something that I was very skeptical of when I like committed to a PhD, or like committed that I want to like go into this like independent academia path. Like I need deadlines and things like that. I need like to be held accountable either by myself or someone else to like do it. So I would require like a hands-on PI to, or like a hands-on professor to help me like run things, even if it's my own research. So like you'll only get to know all of that from the other lab members. So like talking to like lab members is almost as crucial or maybe more crucial than talking to your potential advisor itself.
And how do you reach them? Like through email usually?
Yeah, through email, just saying that I am interested in I'm give your introduction. I'm interested in like applying for a PhD position at your university, and then I want to like join your lab, and I've already talked to your professor or like whatever. And like I just want to get a sense of like culture, work culture. You can, if you can just like write, if you're really busy, you can just send me an email with it. Otherwise, I want to like meet.
Do you usually get replies?
Yeah, like especially students will reply. I think even professors, like from my experience in cold emailing, professors reply. Most of the time it's like negative if you like just ask for like work, which is fine, which is like expected, and like something hits. But like if it's just asking for information, like if you're asking questions about that paper, people are very happy to respond. Especially like if you're a professor working in like the academic field, if you just care about research, you'll work at a research institution. And if you're working at a university, that means you care about students and you want to mentor students as well. And that means that they're happy helping students who may or may not join them later. They're just like happy to kind of guide students wherever they are. I think that's the mark of like any decent professor. And most professors at like good places that you'd want to apply to are decent professors. So you should be fine with that. They will reply.
I think a lot of people underutilize resources they get in college. One of them being professors.
Yeah.
We don't seem to understand, at least I haven't understand this fully, that I have access to someone who's been working in a field for 40 years that I might potentially want to work in. Or just the fact that this person has so many decades of wisdom.
Yeah.
And this guy has the same interests as me. And this guy was once in a position that I currently am right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So even when we're writing, and of course, from the more transactional point of view, this relationship comes in handy when you need LORs, or when you need internships, when you need just recommendations and stuff like that. But even from a mentor point, I feel like a lot of students miss out on that mentorship experience, especially if you're at a large university. But because we're at Ashoka and it's extremely small right now,
it's difficult to miss out on it.
We get that privilege of that one-on-one interaction that we want. I mean, I can email English professors and they respond with, okay, you can come for office hours even though you're not enrolled in my course. Even our FC's courses, now they're touching hundreds, but I'm sure back when you did your FC's, they were 60s, 80s max.
Yeah, 80s, 100.
Yeah.
Some of like the popular ones even reach 150, but like mostly 80, 100.
Achha. Did you have a similar experience underutilizing any resource in college? Because
no, I think you're right. Many people do underutilize this, and like this is something I told Ved as well yesterday when I was talking about just like getting like insights on what you want to do. Like there are people like you said who have gone through the exact same experience. They've done their undergrad in India. They want to do PhD or like a master's in the US, like a potential student at Ashoka CS or physics might, and then they did that, like, and then they've probably worked in the same exact field that you want to work in as well. So like you said, it's very like it's an insane resource that we have, especially with the student faculty ratio. Like it's you get that extra attention, professors will remember you. And like I think I've, especially the old professors at CS, the ones who have been here for like a year or so, I've like just like sat and talked to them about like what I want to do, and then they've just like, even if I've never taken a course with them, they've been extremely like generous with the advice they give. They sit and talk for an hour
Right.
about like not just like the field or like how to like go to grad school and like things that you should be doing. It's just more about like just like chatting about the field that we like. I remember talking to Banerjee about it, and he like shat on me saying that neuroscience isn't what's gonna make AI better, it's gonna be philosophy. He even wrote an article about it recently. But like I remember like, you know, trying to argue with him that day. Like that this was like towards the end of my second year, and I think I walked out of that conversation knowing that I like neuroscience and AI more than that, because like I just sat and like defended it for like an hour with supposed advantage. So even like in unconventional ways, I think that's insanely valuable. And luckily, I think I had in my first year, even though it was online, I had a few seniors who recommended I just like send emails to professors and ask about like research or like internship opportunities, and I just sent an email to the buy-in in like
During your first year?
my first year summer.
Okay.
So I just finished ICP, and I told them like, you know, I'd taken FCP with you, I really loved it, and
Mhm.
I want to do something involving like cognitive science, because that at that point like that was what I liked, and like and also something to do with CS. And like then he put me on my first research project, and from that point onwards I built a connection with the buy-in, and similarly I started reaching out to other professors too, so I built connections with Professor Banerjee. And like when you TA also, like you build like a pretty good connection with the professor you're TAing with, especially if you do a good job. Like they'll know to trust you as like they're like number two,
Yeah.
number three, as
Yeah.
like someone who they are happy with, like, you know, doing their job. So like in that way, like you're building in like in a lot of interpersonal relationships with these really big people, like, and you don't expect them to be really big people because like you see them every day.
Every day,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then there's this like some sort of psychological thing where we like kind of equate people being like extremely busy, or like people being like extremely like untouchable for them to be like really important. But then
Yes.
people like Suban, people like PPD, they're all like like these are CS professors who are like insanely like valuable, who are insanely like accomplished careers, who have just like textbooks of advice that they could just like give you if you just
Mhm.
like sit on like a 15-minute meeting with them.
Even through your, I'm imagining, so you've been chair at IEEE for like what, 10
Hmm.
months or something?
Yeah.
2 semesters.
Yeah.
I'm sure even through that,
Hmm.
just arranging events, making
Yeah.
sure everything's running smoothly, getting sponsors, getting guests, even
Mm.
through that, you built a lot of connections,
Yeah, you're right.
like at different
Hmm.
universities and
Yeah.
even professors.
Yeah.
So, what got you into IEEE, by the way?
Hmm. What sorry?
So, you joined IEEE during your sixth semester, I'm assuming.
No, it's actually my fourth semester, fifth semester.
And
Fifth semester, like after my fourth semester summer, I was doing this internship with Professor Banerjee here in the summer, and like a few other people I was who was there in the summer. Some came up to me and talked about IEEE
mm,
because they like, you know, the band wanted to start this like IEEE thing. Are you interested? And that's how I became part of the founding team. And then like I became chair like a year later.
so how's it been being chair?
It's been very like one of the most rewarding experiences at Ashoka. Like I a lot of CS majors like despise Ashoka, especially Ashoka CS, especially in my batch. They're like, I can't believe I came here. But like I mean, there are of course like many people who are like grateful for the opportunities at Ashoka, and I think I'm one of them, because like that liberal curriculum, like the flexibility, the ability to do FCs, the ability to do whatever courses you please, to like build your own curriculum. I think that's insane, and like also the professor connections, like I
Mm,
mentioned, and those are the two big things that I'm very grateful for Ashoka. And I really wanted to give back in some way. And like I was never a huge fan of clubs and societies, because I remember joining the CSSOC in my first year. And like, CSSOC was very different to how it was now. So like no hate to any CSSOC people who are running it. I love like the current CSSOC. But then like I didn't like how it was run back then. I left it in a semester. It was very like politics based, and there was this like constant like beef between CSSOC and Wix and things like that.
oh, that's
Which,
cute.
yeah, it was, but like this was back in the day, and like it was a little toxic, and I didn't really benefit from it at all. But then like knowing, getting to like define a society from its like very beginnings, and like know being able to like construct a society that goes across disciplines, across the scientific disciplines, and like cater to like the interdisciplinary like students who are interested in interdisciplinary
Yeah.
sciences as well, was like an opportunity I couldn't really like turn my back on, because like I wanted to give back and I never knew, like I felt like TA-ship was like a way that I felt was another way like I felt really like satisfied, because being able to like help students like with their office through office hours and like with their clearing their doubts and stuff like that, but also this way like I felt like I could reach more people too. So like that's why I decided, knowing that it would be a huge commitment in my fourth year when I had like grad school and thesis also, I decided to like apply for like and apply for a chair. And I remember my previous like chairs telling me like it's a huge thing. You may like have to sacrifice a little bit of your coursework and stuff for this. And I like I figured like I'd be able to manage, but like I did end up sacrificing a little, but I think it was fine. It was like the events that you organize and like it, if you design them with the hope of like making a true impact on like people's like learning, on people's like access to education, which is what we try to do with like our neve collaborations, I think like it's an incredibly rewarding experience. And especially like this STEM fest that we pulled off like last few months, that was an insane like amount of work that we had to do. Like I did not like, especially in that last
Chimera here.
Chimera, yeah. So the 1 month before Chimera, like there was nothing else that was on my mind other than like making sure it was running smooth and like getting funding and like talking to professors and like their connections and their secondary connections to like get them and come and give a talk at Ashoka. Great. Like it was like so much work, but like it felt like I was building like a lot of soft skills too, like that I didn't even know. I never expected to go and like ask for 2 lakhs from like a professor, and like that's crazy. I probably would have thought that that's like a little embarrassing, a little humiliating, but then like kind of pitching it in like a very professional way, and then saying that it's all for like the STEM community at Ashoka and like skill building and things like that. I think it required like a new set of skills that I had to pick up, and like I think I'm a better person for it, for having picked those up. And I think I'm quite happy with how everything has turned out, and knowing that I was able to like get people from outside Ashoka to come and like expose like our Ashokan scientific community as well as them to us. I think that's been like a quite. I think that was one of the biggest goals that Misha and I had when we started our IEEE tenure, which was to like kind of bridge the gap between STEM at Ashoka with STEM outside Ashoka, because like everyone still had that perception of Ashoka as like a non-STEM. Like why would you go do physics, or why would you go do CS at Ashoka? So like we wanted to like start talking to the IIITs, the IIT Delhi's, like bring their students here and like send our students there and things like that, and like, have an exchange of like knowledge and like kind of start building ties, so that like we think that like it's only gonna help on the respective communities by doing that.
So we're gonna have camera again, hopefully every year.
Yeah. No.
Hopefully this is a yearly thing.
Yeah.
What was your biggest? Whenever you do something this big, there are always fuck ups.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you guys had at least some of them, or not really.
No, we were trying like we had.
But you guys had excellent volunteers, I know.
No.
Besides that.
Yeah. No, that was not a fuck up. I think that was fine.
No, yeah, that's what I mean. We're
Yeah,
really
you guys weren't
fucking
here.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. You guys carried the event without you, what we have done. No, that I think like even in the like this weekend we had like our farewell lunch at like in Delhi with like, the entire team as like a thank you for like helping out with Chimera thing, and like Misha and I were trying to think of like things that really like went under and like we tried to fix, but like luckily I can't really think of anything. I think, which was extremely rare, and like I'm sure things went wrong, but like at least at this point I'm not able to remember. And like I think things did end up running smoothly, which was ideal situation for us. Like I was blessed with like an insanely talented like executive council team, general council team, and also the volunteers who helped run the event. We'll still like, you guys still need certificates and stuff, right? And t-shirts. We're
don't.
Still getting those.
Dude, I don't have a certificate for you.
Certificates probably used.
That's the only thing I've received my entire life. Participation certificates.
This is like you helped out run this. You were part of the team certificate, and we'll give you a t-shirt too.
Oh, I can use some clothes, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think because of like the team that was behind us, supporting us, and like the team that helped run the event, I think we managed to pull off like a semi-decent event that did not have many fuck ups.
So we're gonna have camera again, like I said.
Yeah.
there's going to be a different chair next semester. Different team the team is going to change really. It's going to change, right? Different.
Right,
Your batch is going to graduate. So I don't know. For them, do you have anything to say to them about what Camera is?
Like the future leaders of IEEE.
Yeah, what IEEE is to
Hopefully they
you,
know.
what Camera
Hopefully
is.
I've talked to them like separately already, like knowing that like we're currently going through our like leadership and transitions, like electing a new chair and things like that. But I think the things to like not forget about like what IEEE's role is that it's the only society that's able to kind of like function across disciplines, across the STEM disciplines. And we are not here to like replace any other society's like role. You know, the CS society will still do their like workshops of like Python on Git and things like that, and similarly physics. We don't want to touch on like anyone's like specialties. I think where we come in is with our like professional, like our IEEE network that we have, and like the big organization that's like supporting us from behind. We are able to, I think, offer like industry visits and like industry related events, and also like our name helps kind of like bring other IEEE members who are like famous or whatever, or like successful in their fields, to come give talks here, things like that. But also, like, by being an interdisciplinary like society by definition, we also want to be like the ones that are designing these events, designing events that cater to that audience. And at Ashoka, that audience is huge. People who want to do physics and CS, people who want to like and do biology and chemistry together, biology and physics together. There's so much like untapped potential in those events, in those spaces, that we are not catering to with like our individual societies, which is why I think IEEE has that unique opportunity to do so. And like with Chimera, we also want to like make sure that externally we are doing as much as we can to provide exposure to Ashokan students with like this kind of work that's happening in STEM across Delhi or across India, hopefully in the future. But yeah, I'm quite confident with my future successors, or whoever's going to be my successors, that they will do a decent job at it, or like a better job at it.
Do you kind of wish that you had Camera when you were I don't know, first year, second year?
Of course, definitely. Like most of IEEE, I think both Misha and I, who are like running the society, are fourth years, and like a lot of the events that we kind of had a vision about, or like we kind of like you know knew that we wanted to do this year, was like from like a meeting right after we became chairs, when we just like kind of dumped out ideas in onto Google Doc about things that we know we would have benefited in our first or second years, when we realized that we are a STEM major, and like knowing that we have interests across STEM disciplines. So I think I would have definitely benefited from a lot of these events. I would have definitely liked to win a lot of money by just like, because like I was a web developer back in the day when I like to earn some money in my first year summer as well. So like I think I would have been able to like win some money here, and like hopefully use that for, I don't know, my social life. Shoka. Whatever. But yeah.
Sweet, yeah. So again, back to Kushal, because I just remember this conversation really fondly. We talked for 4.5 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
He told me, I asked him what were his favorite courses. Can you guess his favorite courses, by the way? So I asked him, Kushal, what were your favorite courses?
Are they mostly physics, or?
I mean, I'm not going to give you a hint.
I mean,
he's a physics major. I'm going to tell you that much.
StatMech.
No.
Computational physics.
You can even just, okay, I'm going to give you, it's not from physics.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's why I asked. I literally asked, like, is it from physics?
No.
Okay. Like, are they FCs, or do they do a lot of courses outside?
Okay.
Or would that be a hint?
This was a very ill-posed question. I'll just tell you. Sanskrit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, he does like talk about being a sannyasi and stuff at times. Oh wow.
He talks a lot about the Vedas and Vedic
that's very interesting.
So those were his favorite courses.
Oh. Do you like read books? Because like
he didn't mention those. He didn't mention any FCs that fondly.
Okay. Oh,
Sanskrit was a big play. Computational physics, because it really taught him how to program reasonably well, at least physics mein jitna chahiye hota hai. And I think that was it. Those were the courses he talked about. But we've talked about CS or Ashoka. I'd like to talk about the more informal aspects of Ashoka. Don't worry, I'm not gonna go into too deep of stuff.
I see.
But whenever I do research, right, on guests, LinkedIn is obviously the first place I go to, because that's how I connect. That's how I find them usually.
Right.
and or even any social media. Any social media profile, what's the first thing you see? Well, this is my specialization. At least college students के case में,
Right.
it's this is my field, this is my GPA, these are the things that I worked on, and then there's the I hate this shit. I am proud to not proud. I'm excited to announce my internship at fucking
Yeah.
Google.
Yeah.
You peasants.
Yeah.
They don't like that.
Yeah.
But
But like it's implied. I got into Google. What have you been up to?
yeah.
It's like doing a little gradebooks assignment, have you? Yeah.
I sleep for negative 5 minutes. Like shit like that.
Yeah.
Right. Very rarely do you see their failures. Someone was talking to Somil. He got into World Bank, right? He interned at the World Bank
Yeah.
as well. And he applied to Dalberg.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dalberg.
That
Impact.
was his like favorite place to intern at, I think. And then he had to reject that to go to World Bank.
World Bank, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
So he applied to 3 places.
Yeah.
And he thought that he has no shot of getting into any of
Yeah.
them. And even to World Bank, he was like, hey, I'm not going to get into this. He got into all 3.
Yeah.
But what people see is, oh, World Bank internship, now works at the World Bank. They don't see the fear, the hesitation, the doubt he had
Yeah.
before that. And people in general seem to be extremely hesitant to share their failures.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I do understand that. Why would you want to say on LinkedIn that I got an F? But even on social media, people seem to be very hesitant to share their failures.
Yeah.
So, just in general, what's something you tried to work on college mein that you just couldn't pull off? Not necessarily failed at, but something you didn't do that well in.
That's a good question.
Or did you do one?
No. Like I'm sure there are.
Experimenting.
Like it's just that you never really like think about this as like even a potential question like before a podcast or like even before like it's barely in your thoughts. So I think most recently I really messed up my grad school applications. Like I said, like I had like this intention on going to a PhD, but then like having talked to my seniors, like if I'm not sure if you've heard of Soham De, like he is like I think the flagship CS major Ashoka has produced in the recent years.
Oh, what do you mean?
As in like he was extremely talented. He like TA'd in his 3rd semester. He was my TA for FCP, and like everyone looked up to him as like this person who, who was really good at CS at Ashoka. And then like he went on and got into PhDs right after Ashoka, which again no one expected because like a PhD after undergraduate by itself is difficult, and in the US, and PhD after undergraduate at like Ashoka from India, which is not like an IIT or an NIT, is even more difficult. So the fact that he pulled that off was like insane, very inspirational. Like I haven't talked to him much. He had this like indirect effect on me that like I kind of like started dreaming about PhD too. Because like, I also thought that I would do a master's first, like back in my 2nd year. But then like after like kind of having like a similar trajectory in the sense of both of us did like a little bit of research from our 2nd year onwards. He obviously did better like at like MSR, Microsoft, and things like that. But like I had this like he got into like great place. Maybe I can get into like a decent like a smaller place too. But then like right after like that was during like the summer of 3rd year. But then right after that I started doubting myself, like maybe I started going through Reddit and like the grad school admissions process, and which you should never do, I think. The horrible place. And then that's when like I would see all these insane profiles getting rejected from like semi decent places that you thought you had a shot at. So like, and then I started doubting myself, and then I was like, okay, maybe I'm not ready for a PhD. And then like I started like implicitly blaming Ashoka for it. I was like, maybe the Ashoka courses haven't prepared me enough because they have been quite easy, and like they haven't been quite rigorous so far. So maybe like I need to like do some more like rigorous coursework and then do that. But then the way like I think I looked at grad school was like that it's going to be like a research experience for me, that like I want to like do a lot more research and like figure out that I love doing research in this area, and then apply to a PhD. That was like how I saw masters, like after that realization, okay, maybe I'm not good enough for a PhD right now. And what happened was that I ended up like that kind of like perspective, like this is what I kind of figured after talking to like my professors too, that kind of perspective doesn't really bode well for a master's program, because a master's program like these are a little bit like, some of them are really good as in that they're funded and everything, but a lot of them like are like places where like their universities make money, so they kind of like want to maximize yield and things like that. And also they want to make sure that you like a lot of people who apply for PhDs also apply to masters as like safeties, so they want to make sure that, you know, if you're like a PhD type of student, you probably will get in somewhere else, so like you shouldn't like, they will probably just like reject you based on that. So something that I ended up doing was that I like applied to a lot of master's places with like a PhD type profile of like emphasizing that I really want to do research in this very specialized field, which like isn't too like in retrospect was horribly like stupid, because a master's like an MS in CS is very generic, as in like you kind of want to go in with like this like curiosity about CS in general, and not about like this like zoomed in thing that um in like CS or like loosely linked to CS.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like I think that's a reason why most of my like master's applications didn't go well as I'd liked. And like I lucked out because like right when I was applying to my like masters, I kind of like did not even like, I knew some of the masters programs were not great for me, but I still ended up applying to them because they had funding and things like that. And I kind like as I was finishing up my master applications, I realized that okay, I made a mistake. I should have applied to PhDs because like these are way too specific for my masters, and I wasted a shit ton of money on like application fees too. I felt really bad about my parents, but luckily like I'm privileged enough, I think like that didn't like hurt my parents too much, but like they didn't, yeah, they didn't seem to mind, but like I felt horrible. But like another, so like I lucked out because like I applied to this like Google pre-doc thing, which is like Google Bangalore has this, even MSR has this thing, research fellowship thing, where you can like apply for right out of your bachelor's or master's, you apply and they'll give you research experience in their research labs for like a year or two, and then you can apply for a doctoral degree or PhD after that. So I applied to that, and through that, like I got in touch with this investigator there, a researcher there, who kind of like had some interest to me earlier, and he suggested that his the I applied to work under him, but he said that like his like interest had moved on, so he like connected me to this guy at IISc, and that's how I got my pre-doc at IISc. So like I lucked out that I had something to do, something like amazing to do that would still put me on that PhD track. But I could have, if like that Google thing did not happen, I would be quite like unemployed for this next year, because like my grad schools didn't work out too well. The few master's programs I did apply to are very expensive, and like stuff that I probably like, they entail things that I probably wouldn't want to do at all. So
Let's say your master's, let's say this PhD thing didn't even postdoctoral,
pre-doc,
pre-doctoral program didn't
yeah,
work out either,
yeah,
and you're left with this. Fuck, now what?
yeah,
No postdoc in sight.
Mhm.
कहाँ है postdoc नहीं दिख रहा.
yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what would you do?
I would I think firstly I would be like depressed, and like I would, because like especially seeing all my like friends and everyone like going to like doing good things, and like and like if I had felt that I was like unprepared, I would be okay. But knowing that I was very like I put in a lot of effort, and knowing that I would have been fine at like a grad school, I probably could have gotten into a PhD program if I properly applied like with the same intention. So that's what Professor Dabine also said, that would have made me feel like very guilty and like that I messed up. But like I would have gotten out of it, and I think I would have continued. Like I would have just talked to my professors for guidance, and like even like I was talking to Professor Dabine yesterday. He just offered that, you know, don't worry too much about this thing. Even if the IISc thing doesn't work out and you hate it there, you can always come back to Ashoka, and like I'll give you some projects, and like I'll pay you so that you don't like, you know, you don't like feel like you're just working here. And yeah, sorry, so you don't just feel like you're doing like a fifth year here, and like you feel like a proper difference. And like he was very sweet about it, and I'm sure like if I'd like pushed him or pushed other professors, they would have helped me find leads outside Ashoka also, which is something I would have pursued over for the year, and then did like and applied for my PhDs like in a nicer way, or like in a more like focused manner. Because like there is like a way to apply for PhDs, and that's like, you know, talking to advisors and stuff beforehand before you apply, like I was talking about earlier. But then I decided I shouldn't do that at all, because like I don't think I was fit for it. Which
So what would you say is the ideal way to apply for a PhD?
okay, so an ideal way to apply for a PhD is like know that you want to do a PhD, and then know, don't doubt yourself that you aren't good enough for a PhD. But like again, I think you should ask me this question if I get into a PhD next year, because right now I feel like I'm just like talking shit. But
Well, we'll see.
yeah, but like the ideal way I know that I'm going to apply now is that have research experience in the fields that I claim to be passionate about, because like Ashoka did not allow me to do a lot of research in the intersection of neuroscience and deep learning. That's why like my thesis, since I started my thesis, I'm able to do work in that field. But otherwise, I didn't have much experience when I was like writing my applications. That would be one thing, and another thing would just be like I think my SOP and stuff was fine for a PhD. Like it was more of a PhD SOP than um,
Masters.
master's SOP, definitely, because it was a lot more like I'm really passionate about this. I want to
Yeah.
make like a difference in this field. I want to work on this with this lab, blah blah. And also yeah, talking to advisors like a few like 3-4 months before the deadline, and then just like getting a sense of what they expect from a PhD candidate, because they will in PhDs and admissions committee doesn't review applications like fully. Like the admission committee kind of like does this like cursory check of like credentials, and then they hand it over to your like preferred advisors, and then
Yeah.
they make the decision of whether or not to onboard you based on the funds that they have and things like
So a
that.
professor does it, or like the department professors like they group up and they do it?
It varies across. I've seen like I've read blogs about from professors who kind of take it upon themselves to kind of take in PhD candidates, because like it's up to them. You're applying to their lab
Yeah.
almost. Otherwise, you are applying to the department, and the department makes a decision together. And then the professor you have vouched for you, like has like a deciding vote almost on it, like has a weighted vote or something like that. So, or maybe like it's completely like you only the department lets you in, and then if your advisor is free, like you get assigned to the advisor or something like that. So
Okay. So having research experience in the field, you claim to have an interest in.
yeah,
That's number 3.
yeah.
Anything else?
I think that's pretty much it. Like GRE and stuff, I couldn't care less about. I don't think people care about even anymore. It's a very outdated way of evaluating your competence, especially like when you're applying to something like a PhD where it's extremely specialized. Like who cares about like whether or not you can separate the independent clause or the dependent clause from a sentence? Like you better, like I'm sure you are good at it and I'm sure you'll survive, but like the fact that you've done like a lot of research and like have been able to write academic papers that they will read themselves should be enough evidence that he is
Competent
skilled.
in English.
Yeah, skilled at language.
Right. How important would you say are LORs?
LORs are also massively important. Again, like when you were talking about, like I didn't want to talk about because you already mentioned that transactional element when talking to professors and leveraging that opportunity of having the professors as connection. But like they are the only way, because like that they are like the massive fact checkers. Because like CV, you can bullshit on your SOP as much as you want, but like professors, like unless they are like bad people, they would be very objective about like this guy has done all of this and I loved working with this guy, and like like when he had this problem in the project he had this solution to it, and like I was very impressed by that, blah, blah. That's how like a normal LOR sounds, and like or like a good LOR sounds. And like there are professors who write really bad LORs, or like some professors, like I'm not sure whether it's a good or bad thing, but I would find this a bad thing where it's like they ask you to write it for them, and then
An LOR?
yeah, like that's usually like rare at Ashoka, but I've still seen it. But I don't think it's ideal because like you like firstly like you probably will sound like a student writing it, because like I don't know what the secret like I've never seen an LOR because like it's confidential, right? You're
Of
not allowed
course,
to
yeah,
name
yeah.
your LOR. So like I don't know what the language is, like how a normal LOR would look like. I just heard about it from like professors and like blogs that I've seen of like professors writing it. So like I don't know if I would use the right language, and I can't write like about myself like that in third person.
Yeah, that's
Third person.
pretty.
That's really weird, and you have to be like a little narcissistic to be like really like, oh yeah, he's extremely talented at this, and then like I've never seen a better programmer, blah blah blah. Like all these superlatives, they'll catch it too. They'll be like, okay, these are a bit few too many superlatives. We should take that with like a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think LORs are really important because like they like this is someone who has gone through the PhD process, who's gone through academia and has a lot of experience in academia, and then they're vouching for you that this person will make a good fit in academia in your institution. So I think universities, I think the most important thing you can write, the most important part of your application is your SOP, because that shows like how passionate you are, and then it's your LOR, and then comes everything else.
SOP is literally why the hell do you want to do
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Yeah, I need to make a strong case for
Yeah.
that.